These ones are similar to the previous video, but there's one extra step and you'll see why when we go through it. So as usual, label your triangle, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Remember the chant, so, ka, toa. We don't need the opposite, so we can get rid of the so and we can get rid of the toa. So we're using the cos key, the cosine. The cos of theta, the cos of the angle, is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So if we put in the values, the cos of 66 is equivalent to 5 divided by x. What you'll notice is different this time from the previous video is that the x is the denominator rather than the numerator. So you do the same as you did in the previous video. You're multiplying the numerator by the denominator to cancel out the division. So multiplied by x, and because you're multiplying that side by x, you do the same with the other side. 5 multiplied by x. So on this side of the equation, you now have the cos of 66 times by x. That equals 5. Now we can get the x on its own. Because it's the cos of 66 multiplied by x, if we divide the cos of 66, we're going to cancel that out because we're using the inverse. Divide that side by the cos of 66 and divide the other side by the cos of 66. And in the equation, we now have x on its own. It's just on the other side this time, but as long as it's on its own, that's all that matters. Now on the other side, because we've divided that 5 by the cos of 66, we write it as 5 over the cos of 66. And that's what you put into your calculator. 5 divided by cos 66, close the bracket, equals, and you'll get 12.2929 and so on. You've been asked to round your answer to 1 decimal place, so that will be 12.3 centimetres. See how you get on with this one. Press play when you're ready. First of all, label your triangle. Remember the chant? So, ka, toa. We're not using the opposite. Get rid of so, get rid of toa. We're working with the cos key. The cos of theta, the cos of the angle, will be equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. Once again, putting in your values, the cos of 72 is 9.3 divided by x. Remember the extra step in this one, because the x is the denominator. If we multiply the numerator by the denominator, we'll end up with just the numerator, and then we have an extra step where we have to get the x on its own. Because we've multiplied that side by x, we multiply the left side by x. So we have the cos of 72 multiplied by x, and that will equal 9.3. Now we need that x on its own, on that side of the equation. So we're going to divide that by the cos of 72 to cancel out the multiplication. Divide by the cos of 72 on both sides. That now means that the x is on its own on that side of the equal sign, and on the other side, because we've divided it by the cos of 72, that will be 9.3 divided by the cos of 72, which is what you put in your calculator. 9.3 divided by cos 72, close bracket, equals 30.0954, and you're rounding to 1 decimal place, so that will be 30.1 centimetres. If you're feeling confident, you can pause the video for each of these questions and have a go first. If you're not so confident, you can still go through this with me and then try the next one on your own. Label the triangle, so, ka, toa. We're getting rid of the adjacent this time. We don't need ka and we don't need toa. We're using the sine of the angle. So the sine of theta will be equivalent to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. The sine of 45 is equal to 5.6 divided by x. So we'll times both sides by x to cancel cancel out that division. That's the sine of 45 times by x is going to be the same as 5.6. Now we get the x on its own, so we divide by the sine of 45 on both sides. Divide by the sine of 45 on this side, we'll get x on its own. Divide by the sine of 45 on the other side, that means that we have x on its own, and on the other side we have 5.6 divided by the sine of 45. Put that into your calculator. 5.6 divided by sin key 45, close the bracket, equals 7.9195. And just to catch you out, I've asked you to round your answer to 2 decimal places. So your answer will be 7.92 millimetres. And have a go at this one. Press play when you're ready. Hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. So, car, tower. Get rid of the adjacent, we don't need that. So we're using the sin key again. The sine of theta is the same as opposite divided by hypotenuse. So the sine of 21 is equal to 6.2 divided by x. Remember, you need to multiply the numerator by the denominator to cancel out the division. So times that by x times the other side by x. You'll now have the sine of 21 times by x is the same as 6.2. Now get x on its own. You need to cancel out the multiplication. So using division, divide by the sine of 21 on both sides. You now have x on its own, and on the other side 6.2 divided by the sine of 21. And you put that in your calculator. 6.2 divided by sine 21, close bracket, equals 17.3006. Again, I've asked you to round that to 2 decimal places. Notice that you will have a 0, even though that doesn't mean anything. If you're asked to round to 2 decimal places, you will put that 0 in after the 0.3. 17.30 millimetres. And again, if you want to try this one on your own, go ahead. If you're not sure, we'll talk through it now. Hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. So, car, tower, which one do we need? Well, we're not using the hypotenuse, so we won't be using so, and we won't be using car. This time we're using the tan. So the tan of theta is equal to opposite divided by adjacent. The tan of 40 is equal to 7.5 divided by x. Again, we need to multiply the numerator by the denominator to cancel out the division, which means we need to multiply the other side by x as well. The tan of 40 times by x equals 7.5. Now get that x on its own. We'll cancel out the multiplication on that side by dividing by the tan of 40, which means we need to do the same on the other side. X is now on its own, and on the other side it's 7.5 divided by the tan of 40. Put that in your calculator. 7.5 divided by tan 40, close bracket, equals 8.9381. Notice this time I've asked you to round your answer to 3 significant figures. If you can't remember how to do that, you'll find rounding videos in the place value playlist. But just a very quick reminder, you look at the first 3 significant figures, that's 8.93. So you're not going to have more than 3 digits in your answer, but you need to decide, will that 3 stay as 3 or will it be rounded to 4? Because 8 is the next digit, you will round it to 4. So your answer will be 8.94 centimetres. And finally, here's one for you to try. Pause the video, see how you get on. You must be bored by now of labelling triangles, but if you're bored, that's good. It means you know exactly what you're doing. Hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. So, car, tower. Which one do you not need? You don't need the hypotenuse, so let's get rid of those two. So the tan of theta, the tan of the angle, will be equivalent to the opposite divided by the adjacent. The tan of 17 equals 9.6 divided by x. First thing is to cancel out the division to get rid of that fraction. Times it by x, do the same on the other side. Tan of 17 times by x will equal 9.6. Now to get the x on its own, we're going to need to cancel out the multiplication by dividing it. Divide the tan of 17, do the same on the other side. So you have x on its own, and on the other side you have 9.6 divided by the tan of 17. Put that in your calculator, 9.6 divided by tan 17, close bracket, equals 31.4001. Again, I've asked you to round it to 3 significant figures, and if you look at your first 3 significant figures, it's 3, 1.4, and you have a 0. So your answer will just be 31.4 millimetres.